Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie and this is Garden of Mirth. Today we're gonna go harvest some basil out of the garden and I'm gonna show you how to make homemade basil pesto and my favorite quick and easy summer meal. I've got my colander here and I've got some pruners and we're gonna run out to the garden and grab some basil. I'm going to be harvesting directly into my colander so I can just rinse off anything if it's dirty. I don't spray pesticides, so really there's not a whole lot of need to clean these unless there's dirt or something like that on them, which I don't anticipate having much of a problem with. These are grown in black plastic, which you can tell weeds are coming through. This is not my favorite way to do this, but these plants specifically over here in this garden are in black plastic. So I'm just gonna go through and snip off and prune my plants back and harvest into my colander. When I'm pruning this basil, I'm pruning it so that I want to promote more growth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to come down on one of these stems and trim right above where it's branching out. And I'll take the top part and harvest it, and that way this plant now has two offshoots here that it'll continue to push out growth. Because this plant is so tall, I can take off a good amount of this plant and it'll still push out a lot of new growth. Basil really enjoys a harsh pruning, so long as you're not taking more than a third or so of the plant, it's going to be okay. I'm going to let you see an up-close cutting here. I cut this one kind of long just so I could show you where I would cut if this was still attached. You can see this plant has branched off here at the top and then produced a seed head. Okay, well, this will be a seed head right now. It's getting ready to flower. But if I go straight down the stem, I can see here there's two side shoots that have already started to form. So when I'm pruning, I'm going to come right above where those two side shoots are and snip. And then from here, if this was still attached, these two side shoots would branch out and make more basil. Okay, now that we have harvested our basil, we're ready to make our pesto. I would estimate I probably have 8 cups, maybe a little more, of basil here. You don't need that much basil to make pesto. However, I cut as much as I can every time because I want the most amount of basil that I can get during a season. Basil is our favorite herb. So I go ahead and cut as much as I can to tell those basil plants that I want even more. I cut probably half of our basil plants today, and I will be freezing any extra pesto that I make and keeping it for the winter time when we don't have fresh basil. So let's get into making homemade pesto. You can use a food processor for this. I'm using my blender. I'm just using a Ninja, and it holds 8 cups. So like I said earlier, my basil's not sprayed with anything, so I'm just gonna do a quick check for bugs or dirt, and if it's fine, I'm gonna throw it into my pot. I'm also going to be pinching off the leaves. I don't really need any of the stem. That's not as desirable. So I'll just be pinching off the leaves. If you have like little tiny short stems like this on fresh growth, it's fine. It's not too woody. But if you let it get really long and tall, sometimes the stems are a little too thick. So here would be a good example where the stem is a little thicker than what I would want to include. So I'll just pick those off. Most pesto recipes call for about 2 cups of basil leaves, but because I have so many, I'm just going to be filling this up to the 8-cup mark, and I'll just quadruple the recipe as needed. But I will put the measurements for 1 serving, which is 2 cups, on the screen. I also like to pick off these little flower heads where they're getting ready to go to seed. I just pick those off. You can save the leaves. Once your basil flowers, it will have a spicier taste. I don't really prefer that for my pesto, so I like to catch my basil before it fully goes to seed. There will come a time that no matter how much you cut it back, the plant is just at the end of its life cycle, and it will go ahead and just flower no matter where you cut it to. But I like to prolong the harvest season as long as possible. Now, when it says 2 cups, it does mean firmly packed. So you can see I'm pressing down on these leaves as I go. However, I wildly underestimated how much basil I have here, because this looks like I haven't really touched it, and I'm almost to about 5 cups even when I press it down really firm. So I'll probably be making several rounds of pesto. You do want to go ahead and use or process your basil pretty soon after you harvest it. If you don't intend to get to it the same day, you can leave a little bit more of a stem on there and put the stems in water, and that will help to prolong it. And just leave it in a jar of water on your counter. I still have probably a couple cups here that I'm not able to fit in my blender cup, but I've got about 8 cups as packed down as I can get it and still fit our next ingredient, which is walnuts. Traditional pesto calls for pine nuts. However, pine nuts are ridiculously expensive, so I like to sub in walnuts. I like to do about 1/4 cup of nuts per 2 cups of basil, so I'll be doing about 1 cup for my 8 cups of basil. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give this a rough chop, and we'll be back to do the next step. Okay, at this point you can see that the leaves are pretty well crushed, and we have our nuts into small little pieces. So now we're gonna add our garlic. I'm just using some minced garlic. If you want to use whole cloves that you minced yourself, that's perfectly fine. You want about a tablespoon of garlic for 1 serving. So of course I am quadrupling, so I'm going to be using about 4. Okay, for the Parmesan cheese, we want to use about half a cup per serving. So I need about 2 cups here. I like to use fresh Parmesan, but that's my preference. However, I don't have that right now. So if all you have is the green canned stuff, you can use that as well. We're gonna go ahead and mix those things in. It looks like right now, it's starting to kind of form a paste. We've got some more Parmesan that'll be continuing to work in as we pulse our extra ingredients in. Next, we're gonna go with some lemon juice and some olive oil. If you're doing just a normal serving of pesto, you just need a little squirt of lemon juice and it'll be plenty. Of course, I have about quadruple that much, so really precise, about 4 little squirts. Our next ingredient is some olive oil. You need about half a cup per serving, so of course I'll be doing 2. I'm going to start with about half, mix this in, and then add some more. And the last thing that we're going to add is some salt and pepper. I just kind of do it by taste. If you didn't add Parmesan, you might need a little bit more salt. I'm going to start with that and we'll see if we need to adjust. Okay, here is the humble beginnings of my quick and easy mom forgot to make something for dinner summer meal. We've got our pesto, we've got some homemade bread, some cheese, and a tomato. And we're gonna make a pesto tomato grilled cheese. It is seriously the best sandwich I've ever made, especially when you use homemade pesto. Spread your pesto on both sides of bread and then add your cheese. We're going to add our tomato and then grill our grilled cheese. Alright, I'm going to get some butter heated up in my cast iron skillet and we will grill our pesto tomato grilled cheese. So there you have it, a quick, easy, healthy, garden fresh meal. See all the pesto and melted cheese, tomato, homemade bread. This is the best I forgot to plan dinner meal. All right, so now you know how to make pesto and a pesto tomato grilled cheese. I'm going to quickly walk you through how to freeze your pesto. When I'm freezing pesto, I just fill my mason jar up to about an inch headspace. And I'll use an old canning lid to seal it and put it in the freezer. Everything that I don't use on tonight's supper will go in the freezer so we can have pesto all winter long. I hope you enjoyed hanging out with me today. If you did, please like our video and subscribe to our channel. That helps us grow. Leave a comment below and let me know what your favorite summer meal is. I would love to give it a try. Until next time, you can find us on the blog, gardenofmirth.com, or Instagram and Pinterest. Until next time, bye friends.